Okay, no intro this time because I'm diving straight into this with my boy Swisheel because we've heard quite a bit of BS where people don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to the draft. So I got the expert here. He knows
Oh,
all. You okay?
yeah, I just had to get that out. It's like Tourette's. It just comes out of me.
What was that? Okay, let's go. Let me cue the music. All right. What was that? You scared the hell out of me.
Spoke from the heart.
All right. So let's dive into this. So I know that you've talked about this quite a bit. Like we've talked about DeJounte Murray and possibility of something happening in the draft with that, because that's kind of what it's going to have to come down to if we end up with the ninth and have to trade up. But just starting off, what's your feelings about this draft? Like, how do you want to start this?
Yeah, I think most of why I wanted to do this with you is because obviously I've seen some of the interactions, for lack of better words, that you've had on Twitter. Let's be honest, folks. It's been a tax. It's been a tax on my boy Clan, and they're out for blood, and I'm not cool with it. Don't fuck with him. Can I say that on here? I don't want to get you.
Nah, you're good.
don't fuck with him. but I mean, yeah, it is what it is. You've been getting a lot of people coming for your neck. So I'm here. I'm like a necklace. I'm like chainmail. I'm trying to protect you now.
It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Some of the hate I get is
it's it's like everybody hates clans, that everybody hates Chris.
And Will Smith come slap me.
Someone call Will Smith to come check your boy. But okay, anyways, reeling this in. Yeah, I think a lot. I just kind of wanted to jump on here because I do agree with a lot of what you've been saying, and I don't think it's like you being pessimistic about our team in general, or hating on players, or hating on the fandom in general. It's just how you choose to fan. As my microphone sinks slowly. And I thought doing a video like this with you would help at least provide a little bit more clarity as to why you've been giving these kind of takes.
Yeah.
Because it makes a lot of sense. And I've seen a lot of things on Twitter, especially Instagrams, things that have been said to you, to other people. And I'm like, no, that's not true. That's not how it works. So I wanted to get into how it works, the nitty gritty.
And honestly, man, some of the things that I truly do believe this. I think people just don't understand how the draft works, and it's perfectly fine. I understand it, especially if you're a Spurs fan, because honestly, we didn't really have to deal with the draft. I mean, this is kind of a new territory from us. We could have any player come in from the draft, and we can be like, oh yeah, we're kind of excited about it. But who really cared? I mean, at the end of the day, we had the big three. We had enough pool where we can bring in veterans that could support the big three, and we were good with that. We were content with that. But now we're in a position where we absolutely need the draft, and people just can't get out of their heads that the team just isn't good enough.
I mean, dude, I obsess over the draft every year just because I love it, and I love college ball. But even the rate that I follow the stuff, the draft is hard to understand. Lots of things about the NBA are hard to understand. If you go back and look at every transaction that's been made throughout the season, whether draft or trade, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense in there because of all these obscure little rules. So to preface that, I'm sitting on 4 hours of researching to make sure I say things the right way on this video because it's complicated stuff.
Yeah, man. So let's just go ahead and start off with the very simple thing, because this is one thing that people didn't understand, didn't quite get. And this changed not too long ago, right? How the lottery's kind of constructed.
It didn't really change the construction, just the lottery odds.
The odds, right.
Yeah, it used to be much higher odds that if you tank the season, you had a much better shot at a first overall pick, and that was kind of their strategy to try to nerf tanking. You can see Houston right now, they have a 14% chance to land the first pick, but so do Orlando and Detroit, and Houston also has almost a 50% chance at pick number 5. And we saw that with New York a couple seasons back. They tanked hard for Zion, and it didn't work out. They didn't get that first pick. And Phoenix too. They tanked pretty bad, and I think they ended up with pick 6 that year instead of one of the top 3 like they were hoping. Granted, it's worked out for Phoenix. It hadn't worked out for New York, so people can make do. But
well, how about we just get the basics out of the way? So first and foremost, some people have said this, and let's just focus on the Spurs. Some people have said that the Spurs can land, well, we could very well land 7th, 6th, 5th, 8th. That's not the case. We have no chance at all during the lottery to land at those times. As you can see, this big gap, that means 0%. There's no chance that we land there. Houston, as you can see, they're going to get a top 5 pick regardless. No matter what, they will be in the top 5. But when it comes to the Spurs, that is not the case. We're either going to be, it looks like 10th, 9th, or top 4. And I think our odds are pretty decent for the top 4. Anything you want to add to this?
I mean, and that's just where your takes come in from previous weeks about, tanking and getting down there, because I've seen a lot of people say, well, don't worry, it's the lottery. We could still end up with like pick 6 and be fine. And no, it doesn't work that way, because like, for example, these the top 4 worst teams or top 5, they are, or I don't want to say like top 5 or anything, but essentially they want these top 4 worst teams to pretty much be guaranteed a spot in the top 5. And, right, the worst team has to be guaranteed a spot in the top 5. Well, if you have the like 14th worst team come in and win the lottery all of a sudden, that screws it up for all the other teams, and then their odds are thrown off. So they have to have picks that are unattainable for certain teams, and that's how it works for us. Every team has a shot at the top 4, but it's not like the whole lottery's open. So for us, it's either pretty much we're either getting by the odds pick 9 or 10, or we have a very, very small chance at ending up in the top 4. And I know people say 20% chance at the top 4. And yeah, that's something to keep an eye out on, but I also go at like an individual basis, because you think pick 4, we have a 5% chance at getting that compared to Houston or Orlando, who has 12%. And that's where I look at it as a vertical thing instead of horizontal odds for a team. And it's minuscule. So that was one thing I noticed people were coming for you, and I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. You can't just it's not like a straight lottery. There's lots of math and stuff that factors into this. So essentially we are range 1 through 4 or 9 through 13, and there's a very, very small chance we end up below 10.
And my thing too, I was just gonna say this, is because I'm actually one of the people that say 20% is not bad. Now, contextually, like, all these other teams obviously have better shots, and it's very close. Like, we have just as much as a shot as the Pelicans, not the Lakers, but the Pelicans, who got their picks. So we're about close there. I would just say, I don't know, it's a 1/5 shot, right? 1 out of 5 that we end up in the top 4. I mean, I kind of see that as, I mean, this might be morbid, but if we were playing Russian roulette, I mean, and I said it was 1/5 shot, I think you'll be pretty nervous. So all I'm saying is, I'm just going to say 20%. Look, people have gotten the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd overall picks with worse odds than us. So it's not terrible. But everybody that wanted us to make the playoffs, you could have just wished all this goodbye. Okay, all this could have been gone.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's like you say, that's where I use the same analogy. Like 20% is nothing to scoff at. And it is something to keep an eye on, but like, you have to keep in mind that you're also going backwards in the lottery, counting down to that number 1 pick. So, while yes, there's a small chance and all that, we're talking about like at pick 9, let's say you've got a 51% chance of that bullet hitting you. So, which are you going to be more worried about, going in that pick 1 through 4 range or the 9? So, I mean, it's heavily weighted in favor there. And what I'm expecting is just a straight drawing where we end up with pick 9. And, that's okay. But that's where I was kind of agreeing with, I would have liked to see us a little more invested in the lottery because, and people will hate me for saying this, but I mean, I didn't feel like we got all that much out of that Pelicans game.
No.
It's just the team looked bad. Even DeJounte, poor guy, he did not look like he was fully healthy from his illness, and he's out there trying to play through it.
Yeah.
Good God, man. Like, we get it. You got heart, but you're not Superman. It's rough.
Yeah.
And the same deficiencies that we kind of knew plagued the team the whole year came out in full force. And yeah, the team fought at the end, but we fully expected that. I mean, we even said there's going to be a little run here, and then it'll stabilize out in favor of the Pelicans again. And star power won out. Brandon Ingram had a hell of a game. CJ McCollum tore up his matchups with the guards in that game. I mean, he had 30-some points in that game, a ton of them in the first half. And it just never felt like we were that in control. And, part of the reason I wasn't in favor, and I'll say this, I'll take what you give me. We got the play in. I was pulling for the Spurs. I'm never going to sit there and watch a game and say, my God, I want them to lose this game. I can say, hey, it would benefit them to lose this game, but I'm going to be rooting for them to win because that's what I do. And I like for our guys when they get a chance to win and see those happy looks on their faces. But, watching that game, it was just, I got to wonder, this is the third time in a row they've done this play-in thing with the bubble and all that. And this is the third time they've fallen flat at the exact same spot. And that's one thing I worried about is that's got to be demoralizing. And then on top of that, you've tried to grow and grow and grow, and it still doesn't look like you're getting anywhere from that perspective. And they're going to have to cut some weight from the team this offseason, and that's a toll on these players too. And that's where sometimes it's the classic scenario of, is it better to make it and fail than to fail initially and have time to process? And no, it's not the same as making the championship game, because obviously it's better to make the NBA finals and lose than it is to not make the playoffs at all. But that wasn't the case, and I just felt like there was more to be gained long term from not going to this play-in game than there was going. But they went, and that's that.
It didn't help anything. I don't understand where people are coming from with that. With this play-in, I know some people have said, like, you need experience. It's all about experience, and you just have to grind it out and you'll get there. But that's not necessarily the case, man. You look at a lot of these teams, a lot of these star-driven teams, whether it be Anthony Edwards, whether it be Ja Morant, whether it be even Jordan Poole is looking pretty good. There's a lot of young guys that 22 or younger that shine. And a lot of times you can kind of tell before they reach the age of 23 what type of player they're going to be. Like, I think that Spurs fans have kind of really got wrapped into the whole development of the players, which I completely get, but that's a totally different scenario when you already have your superstars and then you're developing players behind them. They're going to look much better. But
yeah, well, and then also, like, to your point, this is another thing I'd see you get called out for that I just laughed, because like that's the whole point of his argument is I'd see people talk about, well, this is experience for guys like DeJounte and Keldon and all that, and you'd say, well, Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Maxey went out there with like little to no experience and killed it. Ja Morant's out there killing it and all that, and the responses I saw were, well, you can't compare us to those guys. They were like top 3 picks. And my thing is, that's the point.
Yeah,
that is the point we're trying to make, is that, we're out here talking about experience, hoping these guys can garner anything from that one play-in game, when maybe the answer all along is, why don't we get one of those guys who's one of those top picks who doesn't need all that experience to shine like that? And it might help us fast track a little bit more.
Experience to me is like, look, you play like 80 something games in a season. All right. There's a lot of experience. Now, when you're getting into the playoffs and we're talking about making a run, that's good experience if you have a team that's already established and you're ready to take that next step. But when you're in the rebuilding phase, which we never 100% dived into, it doesn't mean much. A lot of these players won't be here. I don't have faith that Keita Bates Diop will be here forever, or I mean, some players I'm not even sure, like even ones that we are pretty sure on, I'm not sure if they'll be here. And that's kind of what I want to segue into, because I kind of mentioned it earlier, but DeJounte Murray. So as far as how everything's set up right now, if, you know, like you said, if we end up in that ninth, which we have a good legitimate shot of in that ninth, hopefully we get out of that. But the San Antonio Spurs, I don't know if ninth is good enough. And that's just me. You can trade up to any pick you want. I just don't know if ninth is good enough. And if you want to trade up, I don't see you being able to do this with us having the 20th and 25th pick. I don't see you being able to do that without giving up a player. I know we want to get out of this thing real clean, but it might get kind of dirty. So what do you kind of think as far as the possibility, if ninth, okay, if ninth, the possibility of us making a move?
Well, and I'll say first thing, this isn't me like rallying for anybody to be traded. I mean, my personal opinion is I don't think anyone on this team should be untouchable right now, but that's just me.
That's facts. That's facts.
If someone wants to tell me that DeJounte's untouchable, I can absolutely see their reasoning for it. I'm fine if he's with this team. I love DeJounte Murray. But that's just my view. Nobody's untouchable. And that's the thing, is I've seen a lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter where we end up in the lottery. We'll just trade up. We have picks. But it's very hard to execute a draft day trade, especially one to move up in the draft. I mean, typically we see that in the late draft where, like, you know, somebody moves up to pick 16 for picks 18 and 24 or something like that.
It's tough.
But I mean, if we're sitting at pick 9, pick 20, and pick 25, that ain't going to get you a whole lot by itself. Maybe if you give up pick 20 and 25, maybe it moves you to 8 with pick 9. But I mean, to put in perspective, the last lottery trade we saw in an NBA draft was in 2017. And that's where the Bulls traded with the Timberwolves. So the Timberwolves sent pick 7 with Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn over to the Bulls. To get that pick 7, the Bulls had to give up pick 16 and a 3-time All-Star in Jimmy Butler. Now, granted, yes, Zach LaVine became an All-Star. It ended up working out for Chicago, all that, but that was a lot for Chicago to get up, to give up there. And in fact, if you go look at any articles that came out around that time, people were saying Minnesota fleeced Chicago with that deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Jimmy Butler, perennial 3-time All-Star, and you're selling him for a number 7 pick that becomes Markkanen, and a late lottery guy in Zach LaVine who hasn't shown he can do anything other than dunk. I mean, Chris Dunn was kind of a failed experiment, but even if you look at it now, essentially it was swapping Butler for Zach LaVine, because Chris Dunn failed as a Chicago Bull. Lauri Markkanen was kind of meh, and now he's a Cleveland Cavalier. Zach LaVine's still there. I mean, that's what you're looking at having to give up to move up in these drafts. And that moved them from number 16 to 7, 9 spots. So you can say a teens pick and a 3-time All-Star is worth 9 spots in the draft. And we don't have anybody like that.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. That's where
that's where I think, you know, if we have pick 9 and we're talking about we'd like to see the team move up, I don't see any way it happens without someone like DeJounte included in there. And that's not saying I'm advocating for that. That's just my opinion on what that's going to involve.
You know, and just adding on to that, there's no way. Like, if we didn't get a lottery at all, this wouldn't even be a conversation. I mean, we would be looking. I mean, come on, this wouldn't even be a conversation. We would have had some very moderate picks, and I don't think that these picks would have necessarily substantially made our team better. At least in the position that we're at now, even at 9, let's say nothing happens, there's still some really good talent and potential superstars here. One thing that I've heard, and I know you've heard this argument quite a bit, and it kind of bothers me, I'll be honest. Some people have said, well, it doesn't matter because, like, Jokic was, you know, a late draft picked, and you know, a lot of the other players that are superstars nowadays, you know, they can be late draft picks. And it's like, just keep in mind that if you're a top pick, if you're a top 3 pick, you have 100% chance of not missing out on those guys. Why are you trying to downplay our positioning and saying, well, you know, it doesn't matter, we can pick somebody at 20th? That's not guaranteed. And nor I'll say this, as great as we are at drafting, and I don't think the Spurs miss often at all. I think we're pretty doggone good, at least in the league, and you know, compared to other teams, we're really good. I don't think any of our picks, as good as they've been, we've got out of it one superstar that's not in the lottery. I think Primo could potentially be it. I don't think we've gotten one superstar out of the lottery. I mean, Manu and Tony, but even to your point, and we talked about this before, is scouts have gotten so much better since then. So it's not the same.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, to that point, I see a lot of these things. People point to Manu and talk about, well, people point to Jokic. Oh, he was a 41st pick. You can find people in the second round. You absolutely can. But since the NBA's inception in like 1947, you've only had like 17 players drafted in the second round become all-stars.
My
and
God.
I think one undrafted because Ben Wallace became an all-star. But I mean, and we're talking guys like Draymond Green, Isaiah Thomas, Marc Gasol, Paul Millsap, there's a little bit of a drop-off. Mo Williams, Kyle Korver, you know, Carlos Boozer, Gilbert Arenas, who I don't really count because he fell in the draft because of character issues, not because of talent. Mm-hmm. But Mehmet Okur, Michael Redd, Manu Ginobili, Rashard Lewis, Nick Van Exel, Antonio Davis, Cedric Ceballos, Cliff Robinson, guys like that. But I mean, tell me, man, there are 30 picks in the second round of a draft every year. I mean, let's say that we're just doing in the last 50 years. Mm-hmm. Of second round picks.
Oh man, you're not going to find many.
That means that you have a 0.01% chance of finding an all-star talent like Jokic in the second round there. I mean, I appreciate the sentiment. You know, it is true. People can surprise you. I mean, Jordan Poole was picked 27 and he's playing well. I mean, he's a first round pick. DeJounte, yes, picked 29, but the vast majority of these all-stars come from the top of these lotteries here.
And DeJounte fell.
Mid-level of the lotteries there. I mean, that's why people are clamoring to get these players, is, you know, that's where they come from.
Yeah, and DeJounte and Keldon Johnson fell to places they weren't supposed to even fall to anyway. Same with Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Walker.
Well, and
Lonnie
you know,
was mid, right? What was Lonnie?
They fell for legitimate reasons. Lonnie, a lot of his injury and head issues caught up to him. You know, Keldon fell for reasons we still complain about today. You know, not a great shot creator, is a little one-dimensional in terms of his dribble game. He's either a spot-up shooter in the corner or driving into a group of people trying to draw a foul or something, if nothing else, because he struggles to create for himself. And part of that problem was he was listed as a guard, and that's hard for a guard. And luckily it's worked out some as a power forward, but we saw some of that deficiency against the Pelicans. Things like that. I mean, it's just, you know, to show people, yes, it's possible to do it. But I'm hating this example people throw out about the Heat doing it without the lottery. Because for one, the Heat traded for Jimmy Butler, who was like a 4 or 5 time All-Star by the time they got him. No, he wasn't a lottery pick, but he was an all-star when they acquired him. It's not like they would have acquired him when he wasn't. They went out and got Kyle Lowry, a veteran, a champion, a multi-time all-star. And they're two, like, X-Factor guys that they have on their team. Arguably the 6th man of the year in Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, their lockdown center, were both lottery picks. I mean, that's where it started right there. You know, they took Justice Winslow 10th, and that didn't pan out, but they traded him off to the Grizzlies, got some good assets there, like Iguodala in their run a couple years back. I mean, it's not like the lottery hasn't served them, but they're also a hot free agency destination. You know, if we look at these teams that have rebuilt now and are contending or on the brink of contention, you look at Cleveland. I mean, right now they play, Darius Garland. They've got Isaac Okoro in there. They've got Evan Mobley. They've got Jared Allen. They've got Colin Sexton.
Mm-hmm.
What do all five of those guys have in common? They were selected in the top 10 of the draft. All five of them.
Yeah.
Look at Phoenix. They've got, granted, Chris Paul they traded for. It wasn't like he came there in free agency. They unloaded something for him with the Thunder. So they traded for him. They've got Devin Booker. They've got Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. They've got DeAndre Ayton. What do those have in common? They're all lottery picks. Yes, Booker was 13th, but like Mikal Bridges was picked 10, Ayton was picked 1, Johnson was picked 10. I mean, there's a lot of these guys in there who were high picks that they spent money and picks on to get in there rebuilding that system. Charlotte's being built around LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, both high lottery picks.
Yeah.
It's just, and even then, even the old guys are shipping out, like Cody Zeller that got shipped out last year from Charlotte to Portland. That's a number 4 overall pick and stuff like that. I mean, these guys in the lottery do run the league for the most part.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you want to maximize your chances of getting a star. And the only way that's possible is being in the lottery. I mean, we can kind of say all these things like, well, there's a possibility that a guy can be a hidden gem, and it's like, yeah, but guess what? If you're number 1 pick, you can have whatever you want. You can have that gem, which most people wouldn't do something like that, obviously, but you can do it. You could statistically do it. You have a 100% chance of having whoever you want. So stop this whole like going down to 2% chance of having a star when we can just maximize it. And unfortunately, I'll just be honest, I'm a little upset where we landed because I just feel, and it just could be me, okay, but I just feel like this season was for nothing. Unless we get something out of this, I just feel like this season was kind of a waste. DeJounte Murray, it was great individually that he was able to accomplish what he did, and it's great for his career, but as far as the Spurs as a whole, I don't know. I just don't think that we accomplished much by trying our best to be a 500 team. I would have much rather been in the position Houston or Atlanta was. And this is me watching not all the games, but most of the games, pretty much all the games. And it was the same story every single time. We just didn't have the talent. We fought, didn't have the talent.
Like, to your point, if we go out and draft somebody 41st overall and he turns into an absolute stud, I'm going to cheer him on. I'm going to love the fact that he's with our team. All I argue is that I just wouldn't bank on that.
No.
And that's my thing, is if your contingency plan as a GM for the next 10 seasons is, hey, maybe we'll get lucky in the second round, it's not a great strategy going forward. I'd like to see a little bit more concrete points for how the team's going to get back on track. And Brian Wright's set himself up nicely. We had a good trade deadline. He did a lot, he made a couple, nothing blockbuster, but I mean, we saw it immediately. Just, it was sad to see Derek White go. He was my favorite player on the team, but we've seen how much better Josh Richardson fits with this group of guys and stuff like that. Okay. So it's a start. We can see what he's trying to do, but I just felt like leading up to it, we should have given him the best chance possible to make a splash this offseason, because from my personal opinion, if they whiff on this offseason, I almost think they have to look at tearing it down and starting from scratch, because the worst case scenario is we keep all these 3 picks. Sure, you end up with some okay talent, but it doesn't at all match the timeline we have with DeJounte. And really, I want to get DeJounte a championship, man. He deserves it. And, he doesn't deserve to be this guy who's leading us in virtually every statistical category to get bounced in the play-in every year.
Yeah.
And we've got this money to spend in free agency. And if we don't spend it on guys who can really come in and instantly help him, we're going to be right back where we were. We saw that last year. We spent money on guys who could kind of help but fade into the background and let the young guys take over, which I get was the strategy. And I fully understand that. But I think this is the year to say, okay, now we have the info we need. Let's execute. Let's go out there and try and make some deals. And, you know, granted, it could happen. We offer everybody on the market and everyone turns us down. And I will sympathize with that if it happens. But I think this is the year we have to be aggressive, both in the draft, free agency, in the trade markets, and trying to get some stuff done if this is the group we want to go with. Because if not, I just don't see how, you know, some minimal free agent signings and a couple draft picks, 2 of which will probably go to the G League, really affect much on this current team. You know, maybe we win a play-in game or something, or maybe an 8th seed, but the goal is to win a championship. And I don't see much higher of a ceiling for the core group as it is now running this team.
It doesn't make sense, and they're not going to be able to run the team. They're going to run the team straight into the ground, because I love these guys. I think that we have some really nice talent going into this. I'll be honest, going into this season, I was really hype on this team. I was like, dude, but everything, I did say this before the season started. I did say this. It was all dependent on what type of jump that they make. This was me being hopeful that Keldon Johnson would be more of a shot creator. As you know, last season he kind of stopped doing it this season, but he kind of had like a baseline fade mid-range shot where I was like, okay, if he kind of refined that, he could have a pretty nice mid-range shot. But that's not the case this season. He kind of went back to his old habits, which is fine. It's just all it means is that's the type of player he is, and he's not going to, more than likely not going to become a superstar. DeJounte Murray, he didn't do anything that necessarily shocked me. You know, everything that he does well, he just did, you know, slightly better. Devin Vassell, I don't know where he lands right now. I'm hoping that he can become a star, but he does have potential. Primo, I'm totally sold on Primo. And Lonnie, I don't know. It's on and off. He was good at the end of the season after the Derek White trade. But honestly, man, yeah, none of these players on our team right now, like if you look at this roster, let's just clear our minds for a minute. If you just came into, you know, this, if not just came into this situation, if you just looked up this roster and you're not a Spurs fan, let's just say you're a casual fan, okay? You just casually watch and you know of the players, you know of the Giannis, you know LeBron, you know Luka, you know the stars, right? You keep up with the NBA, but you know casually. If you looked at this team, if they didn't have Spurs jersey on, you would just say, oh, okay, they're just some bottom of, you know, team. Like, you wouldn't think anything of it. You would think, oh, they're just.
Well, you know what people like that think. You know, pick a side. We've dealt with them all year. Those are guys who casually watch the NBA, who don't really watch the Spurs all that much, and they give some takes on them. I mean, and we've heard them. I mean, you know, yeah, I fleeced them on their draft takes because they were just terrible. But I mean, I wasn't arguing that we were going to be a bad team.
Yeah.
I was just arguing against them, saying that, you know, we don't know how to draft. But I mean, at the beginning of the season, I think I said I predicted like 28 to 30 wins for this team.
You weren't that off. You weren't that far off.
No, not that. I mean, 4 games off of the top end of that. And really, I think it would have been closer to it if a lot of other teams had. But I do want to say this, though, to the people out there, because I see this all the time. And just because I point out deficiencies in a player's game does not mean I'm hating on them. You know, no. I can't do what any of these NBA players can do. I'll never be able to do it. Keldon Johnson will always kick my ass in a game of basketball.
But you know what? Keldon Johnson would never be you.
He'd never what?
He'll never be you.
Well, he'll never be me, but I mean, that doesn't change the fact that he'll kick my ass in basketball. That guy is infinitely more talented than me. So when I say he's a little one-dimensional as a player, I'm not hating on Keldon Johnson. I want Keldon to stay with this team, and I firmly believe he has a place with this team. I just don't see him being a multi-time all-star like a lot of people say he's going to be. You know, it's been 3 years. We've seen him. Well, you know, the same as DeJounte, maybe an outlier selection here. DeJounte, for the most part, has gotten marginally better every year at the same things. He still has his same weaknesses he came into the league with, but he covers them enough with what he does well that it doesn't matter. But when you look at DeJounte, he's still not a great three-point shooter. He's still not a great finisher at the rim. He's adjusted by adding in that mid-range shot to help him since he gets caught from behind a bunch. But I mean, it is what it is with him as a player, you know, and that's kind of how I see Keldon. You know, he's gotten stronger over the years. He's worked a little bit on, you know, making his release a little quicker and a little more accurate from deep. But I mean, he's not one of these guys like, you know, we're talking about Jordan Poole. He's not going to pull up in your face from three and drain it. You know, he's got to be the standstill catch and shoot. And he's gotten stronger, but we're still not seeing a whole lot of like ball handling and finesse in the lane. It's just kind of barrel in there. And that's fine. That's who he is as a player and all that. That's all I mean by that.
This been going on a little while, so I think we could probably wrap it up. But I will say this. Everyone that says that you need to just be patient, in actuality, I kind of realized something. As Spurs fans, we didn't have to be patient. We never, ever had to be patient. Like, we could have players that we always sit back and say, oh, it's part of the system, bro. It's all good. You know, they're just taking care of their business, trying to improve on their skill sets. And, you know, once they're ready, they're going to be great players for us. And you just have to be patient. It's very easy to be patient when you're winning 50 plus games per season. But now I'm kind of in the realm of, no, it's not normal in the NBA to wait for a player to develop for 4 or 5 years before you can, you know, be a playoff team. No, a lot of times if you get a superstar, legitimate superstar, you're a playoff contender quick. Like, at the very least, you're on the brink of busting into the playoffs. You don't supposed to wait 4, 5, 6 years for Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson to develop. No. Most of the time, by the time they hit age 21, and it's just reality, 21, 22, you kind of know that they're going to be special. So you don't have to sit here and wait. And I think all of us that say that we've been patient, yeah, sure, we've been patient, but not really. It's very easy to say that when we've been winning so many games. And I think that the Spurs have kind of conditioned us into something that's not necessarily the norm around the NBA, and nor should it be the norm. These guys get paid a lot of money, and you want the best product you could possibly have out there. And we're the Spurs. We should be winning championships. We shouldn't be settling for playing games and getting happy. No, we need to go out and do what we got to do and get that talent. But I just wanted to end it off by saying, well, actually, do you want to tell the people about the podcast? If you made it this long, a lot of people like check out after 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, this has kind of been a mini podcast. Well, first I'll respond to your point, and I'll say, I mean, patience is a virtue, but let's put it this way. I was preaching patience on OOC, our first thing together, 3 years ago. It's been 3 years. You know, I get patience, but at some point we're looking for some payoff in that amount of time. You know, if you invest in some kind of stock and it loses you money 3 years in a row with no real sign of trending upward, you're going to be a little frustrated. So, you know, I agree with patience, but most late bloomers don't take too long to come out. You know, I think Kyle Lowry is the only one I can think of who was really a late bloomer. And
Conley, maybe?
You know, what's that?
Maybe Mike Conley? I think Mike Conley might have took a while, right? Didn't he take a while?
He took a couple years, but I mean, Kyle Lowry really didn't come into his own until like his 7th season in Houston.
Okay.
And then, you know, after that, yeah, he played well with the Raptors, but even then, it's like DeJounte. He needed a star next to him to really maximize his potential.
Yeah.
And all that. But, you know, we're trying to grow a team here, and you know, yeah, Lowry didn't really see Toronto till like his 9th season. We're talking about that's another 3 years from now for DeJounte to be in his 9th season and see some success. And even then, it took like 4 or 5 years after that for Lowry to see his first championship. So we're talking 8 years if that's our formula with like late bloomers and such. And I just don't think it's sustainable. So I love our team. I love the guys. I think it's time for some change. But similarly, how I've loved things and think it's time for change, we have a new podcast.
Yes, sir.
I guess you'll put the link in the description, but
Yeah.
it's a power four, man. We've got you and me back together at last.
I love
We've
it.
got good old Matty, the Spurs ranter himself, and we've got Impeccable on there with us. We're called Views from the Rafters, and someone said the other day, "Why are you starting a podcast now? It's the end of the season." And we said, "That's why. It's the end of the season.
Yeah.
There's finally some new stuff to talk about instead of the same old, same old." So
Exactly.
it's going to be Spurs centric with a little bit of general NBA and basketball sprinkled in there, and just a lot of fun. So we're still trying to decide whether we want to record it live or pre-record it and release it for you guys. So let us know down in the comments, what you'd like to see from that, and any topics you want to discuss, things like that.
Yes, sir. And also, guys, follow Swisheel. Amazing channel, like phenomenal channel. I actually see your channel, and honestly, I definitely see it blowing up sooner than later. Like, it's going to be one of those channels that definitely blow up where people are going to tune in to see what is it that Swisheel has to say about the draft prospects. And I'm not saying that just because we're friends. I'm saying that because you genuinely do make like good content, like really good content.
Well, I just gotta find more time to do it.
Oh.
Hopefully got some time this week. I've got a bunch of scripts written and everything that I've been trying to do in spare time, so I just need to sit down, record, and edit, and get them up there.
Yeah, man, you do a great job. So like, just keep up what you're doing there, man. I really like it. And honestly, I don't know if anyone knew this, but when I did the DeJuan Blair document or mini doc or whatever, you wrote that. Like, you're a really good writer. So you even wrote another script for me for Patty Mills that I never got around to. But you're really good at writing. So like, oh wait,
Trying to take my commission from me?
what's that?
What's up with that? Trying to take all my writing commission from me? I'm not going to release the Patty Mills documentary. I put my soul on that, dude.
I'm sorry, Swisheel.
I'll write you another one.
But yeah, man, so look, I appreciate you coming through. Yeah, this is more like just kind of a mini pod almost, but we're definitely going to get together again for this Views from the Rafters, and that should be pretty doggone fun, and we'll figure out like when we're going to do that. But everybody go follow Swisheel. But man, is there anything you want to say before I give the outro?
Let's get these draft picks.
Yeah, that was incredible. All right, we'll get with you guys later, man. Until next time, deuces.
Hold it here. It's the draft.